I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. At this time, if there's any public comment, any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Quicker than me.
Good morning.
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 Karen Zabrowski, Carlton Township. I want to give you a little information. The Charlton Park Village Foundation was established in 1988 and is under the control of the Charlton Park Village Foundation Board. This endowment has very specific rules on how it can be spent and what it can be spent on. It can only be spent on the collection, which includes the museum and the historic village, and nothing else. The interest made on the endowment is all that can be spent. Half of that interest must go back into the endowment. The other half is being used on very specific collection projects. Placing someone on the Charlton Park Board, as has been suggested, to find a better way to spend the endowment to help make the park more self-sufficient won't work. The rules are very specific, and the Charlton Park Board has no control over the endowment. It is totally controlled by the Foundation Board. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm Ken Korsh, the director of the Berry County Animal Shelter, and this is Tim McGavin, my partner in crime. So we just wanted to take a couple of minutes. We came to see you all in July and talked about the concert we were having. Tim and I decided to put together a 4-month program where we were going to raise funds to help to raise enough money to purchase a new vehicle for the shelter. So our 4 months is over. We didn't quite reach our goal.
No.
But we did raise, which ended last Friday, we raised $18,545.20 towards the purchase of the new vehicle.
Good job.
Yeah, pretty fantastic. Tim's the only person I know that can raise $3,000 at a cookie sale, so again, I think we had the best brownies in town for some reason, so. We have selected, we're working on the pricing for 2020 for the Michigan deal for the new van, and we're looking at right around $23,800. So we came awfully close. So, and we did want to put a time limit on this because we want to put our efforts towards other fundraising for the shelter. And during this time, we also did raise an additional $5,000 during this 4 months for the TNR program. The trap, neuter, and return program. So if we hadn't diverted some of those funds, we could have hit our goal, but we did pretty good. So we just thought we'd pass that along.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great
Thanks for the
job.
support, too.
Good job.
Great.
Any other public comment this morning? Hearing none, here to present our first item is Mr. Ron Welton. This time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend $8,588 from Fund 472 McEwen Bridge Park for ADA sidewalk and parking construction at McEwen Bridge Park.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Geiger, second by Connor. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Commissioners. McEwen Bridge County Park was built in part with a grant for the Michigan DNR Trust Fund. A requirement of that funding source is that all the construction elements be ADA compliant. We recently completed a 5-year rec plan that contained an accessibility assessment. that assessment found that while we were in compliance on the east side of McEwen Road, on the west side, there were some things we needed to do. And use of this fund would bring us back into compliance. The construction elements we're requesting are to put in a ADA parking space in the gravel parking lot and connect the existing sidewalk to the river boardwalk that goes to an accessible deck, the accessible restroom, and the accessible parking space.
Anybody have any questions for Ron?
The picture wasn't very good. It's the same one that you have up there, so I was trying to figure out where the sidewalk was. It was going from a gravel parking space.
We currently have a parking lot that or a sidewalk that goes through the east side of the park. It winds around the picnic area, across a bridge, through the river access point, part of the park, goes under the newer McEwen Bridge and ends. What we're requesting permission to do with the remaining fund dollars are to extend the sidewalk from where it ends 254 and a half feet to it will connect to a boardwalk that goes to an accessible deck, connect to the accessible restroom, and connect to the new accessible parking space.
So it's running along the river?
No.
Sorry. Like I said, the picture wasn't very good. And
But
I'm struggling to think of it too.
yeah,
it meanders from under the bridge
right.
towards towards the it does. We have a boardwalk that meanders along the river. What this would do is connect the sidewalk to the boardwalk, and in addition, take the sidewalk from the bridge to where the gravel parking lot is. And en route to the parking lot, there's an accessible restroom, and we would connect sidewalk to that restroom.
Does it cross McEwen Road?
It goes under McEwen Road.
Okay,
The existing sidewalk goes under McEwen Road.
okay, and then it would come up in that parking lot on the west side. Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Is the boardwalk, I mean, can you get a wheelchair on the boardwalk? Or,
You can, yes.
I mean, down it? I mean, I don't know how easy
Yeah, it's
that
an
would be.
accessible boardwalk, and we have and it leads to an accessible deck.
Right.
But but getting to the boardwalk is inaccessible, and we would like to address that. It's a path now.
Commissioner Geiger?
These were elements that were identified to be completed when the park was construction, but I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing folks figured we were running low on dollars, and those elements just were never completed. So we'd like to go back now and complete what was intended to be part of the project from the beginning.
Ben?
Two questions.
Sure.
First, will this make the park completely ADA compliant? And two, does this zero out that fund?
It almost zeroes out the fund. We're asking to use $8,600 of an $8,700 remaining balance, so there won't be much left. Given some contingency, probably nothing left. And the entire park is not compliant, but all of the elements of the grant would be compliant.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Vivian?
Are you thinking of doing it yet this fall or in the spring?
You know, it's kind of weather dependent when you get to this time of year.
Yeah.
Like to do it in the fall, but I hate to see leaf prints in the sidewalk, in the concrete. And then you run into weather issues. So
They have out in the plains.
our stated goal is we'd like to get it done before the primary use season next year. You know, this park is used a lot by residents and visitors of Thornapple Manor, and a lot of those folks have accessibility issues. In addition to being a requirement that we have, but certainly be enhancement for those folks at Thornapple Manor to complete the ADA portion of our project as well.
I like the idea that you're using local construction, local contractors.
Yeah, it's hard to find anybody to do the work right now. The bid that we have is the same contractor that did the sidewalk around this building this summer, and that's one of few folks that is accepting work right now.
I think it's a good thing when you use people that live here to do the work.
Any other questions?
I think an interesting side note is, and it was interesting to me at least, is that the boardwalk itself is made out of is a Brazilian wood or something?
It's some type of rainforest hardwood. I'm not sure of the type, but it's extremely hard.
It's amazing. I don't know if it's ever going to wear out. It's just amazing that was a smart idea from the beginning to do that. So, but I just thought I'd throw that out since we were talking about some of that. So.
The boardwalk goes through an area that's frequently wet, so it would have been impractical to do any other type of construction there. But we would like to connect a sidewalk to where the boardwalk begins.
Any other questions for Ron? Hearing none. The question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend $8,588 from Fund 472 McEwen Bridge Park for ADA sidewalk and parking construction at McEwen Bridge Park. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. I'm going to keep Ron here for a minute. Michael has some communication on another issue that's not really on our agenda, but Ron might be able to help with it. So we got an email from Mike Bremer, and it's from the that's for the fellow trail lovers. It says Thornapple Township has been given an opportunity to upgrade our MDNR Trust Fund land acquisition grant application. For those of you that have applied for grants, know the critical importance of every point in the review process. The attached letter is in regards to future collaborative maintenance agreement between our entities to maintain the 8 miles of Paul Henry Thornapple Trail from McCann Road to 108th Street. If you are willing to declare your intent to commit to a collaborative maintenance agreement, 2 things will happen. 1, our trail will stay safe and open. And 2, Thornapple Township will be able to add 15 points to our application score. The attached verbiage has been approved by the DNR and can be transferred to your respective letterheads. Thank you in advance for your consideration of this opportunity. Our deadline to submit additional information to our grant application is October 16th. And then you see the letter that was attached. It says, to the MDNR Trust Fund, Land Acquisition Grant Committee regarding intent to commit to collaborate upon Thornapple Township's acquisition and development of a Paul Henry Thornapple Trail extension from Middleville Crane Road to Berry County section Simpson Road of the same trail, which connects to the Kent County Caledonia section of the Paul Henry Trail. And then there's room for a municipality organization, that would be us, intends to commit to a formal maintenance and operations agreement with the Thornapple Township, the Village of Middleville, Berry County, and the Thornapple Trail Association to cooperatively maintain approximately 8 miles of Paul Henry Trail from McCann Road to 108th Street across northwestern Berry County. So I guess I need a motion, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve,
To recommend.
to recommend to the Board of Commissioners. Actually, we have to approve it today because their submit date is tomorrow. And this would be a similar as in support like we did for the broadband support, correct?
Correct. It's not, the letter of intent, it's simply a letter of intent. The agreement would come at a later date.
The DNR Trust Fund reviews your application after you submit it, and they offer constructive criticism, offer ideas on how you can make your application better, and that's what they came back with. And in terms of the DNR grant process, 15 points is a huge, can make all the difference. So this is going to be a great opportunity for them. And as a reminder, this is to purchase a trail corridor from Middleville to our the county-owned property close to the Kent County border. This will be a great project, a great improvement for Berry County, and anything that you folks can do to help it along would be a great thing to do.
I kind of really don't have a motion on the floor, so we
So
really
moved.
can't entertain
So
too
moved.
much.
Oh,
Okay,
support.
so motion by Gibson, support by Parker to support, or, what's your motion, get, who? I'm putting words into your mouth now, are you okay with that?
That's fine.
Motion to support the letter and approve the chair to sign it. Are you okay with that, Mr. Parker?
Yes,
All righty,
and years.
discussion.
What are we agreeing to?
Agreeing to this letter of support for the Thornapple Trail Association.
Yeah, but it says a maintenance agreement, which is not attached. Or, I'm all for
We're in
parks, but.
discussion right
but
now, so.
I'm wondering if.
This is conceptual. You're agreeing to a conceptual maintenance agreement between the three property owners. Berry County owns a section of that trail corridor. Thornapple Township will own a section if this grant goes through.
And Middleville.
And Village of Middleville owns a section. And this is just to say that we're going to collaborate on maintaining the trail.
Have we done anything? Is this pretty routine, Michael?
I was just asking, Rhonda, what, effectively what we're committing to, and just that, as I understand it, to maintain what we have. We aren't, if I'm correct, maintaining their section. They maintain that.
What they're most concerned about in these types of projects is that once it's constructed, it's maintained. And this is just that we'll all work together to maintain the trail corridor once it's put in, once it's constructed.
I think Rick Moore probably could answer a lot of these questions here. The other parts of the Thornapple Trail has been maintained by, could you elaborate on that? Thornapple Trail Association,
From Simpson Road to 108th Street has been maintained by the Thornapple Trail Association. That Berry County pays for maintenance south of Hastings, not to the north. So we're simply agreeing to say that we will continue to maintain our sections in cooperation with Thornapple maintaining their section and Middleville maintaining their section, because this year Middleville is mowing the unpaved section of the trail too, and I used to do that exclusively, as well as mowing the Middleville section every 2 weeks. Well, when I got my legs smashed, they decided to do it themselves finally. So that gives me more opportunity to maintain the section between Stimson Road and 108th. But if we can connect Middleville to Caledonia, which this will do, then this will help us to be able to get that trail paved. And there's a couple of big washout holes in the section between 108 and Stimson that will be filled in and make that trail handicap accessible too. Because right now, when I drive the tractor through there, you're going through 2 or 3 feet of water, and there's a path that goes out around it. But it'd be so much nicer to work together with the community to build this trail, because I've been working with Doug Mills for 20 years to get him to sell me this property, and he's finally agreed to do it. And so this is a 20-plus year goal for me. I'm doing the same thing in Eaton County, and I've got a guy who fought me for 20 years who wants to do the same thing. So we're finally getting some good traction. People are finally starting to realize that going outdoors and going for a walk where you don't get hit by a car, by a distracted driver, is a good thing. So I'd like to ride this wave of possibilities and continue to grow the trail.
Yeah, if I was on a wave for 20 years, I'd like to keep riding it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
in response to Commissioner Geiger's question, I don't know, and I think the question you had, and really comes down to the definition of a formal maintenance and operations agreement.
Right.
What does that commit us to? I don't know the answer to that. What I would suggest as an alternate is that in lieu of a formal maintenance and operations agreement, that it be amended or changed to say intends to commit to collaborate with Thornapple Township, the Village of Middleville, Berry County, and the Thornapple Trail Association to cooperatively maintain. So we're effectively saying we will collaborate. And
Yeah.
then, once that allows the opportunity for you to chairman position that we can get it in as a letter of support if you may, but it doesn't commit to any agreement or something that you haven't yet seen. That's a good catch.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
is this the wording that has to be done?
That's sample wording,
That sample wording from who?
DNR.
From DNR.
I think that's what he said,
Yep.
what he indicated.
It says from Thornapple Township, doesn't it?
It says that this is sample wording, attached, has been approved by the DNR and can be transferred to your respective letterheads. So this is like a sample from the DNR, this is what we would like to see your county or your other, so I'm assuming they've asked, Middleville for one.
Okay.
And,
I'm sure it has. So.
yeah, Middleville, Thornapple Township and us,
Which they've already agreed to.
right.
What about the township? Thornapple Township?
They're the one applying
They're
for
the,
the
yeah,
grant.
they're the applicant.
They're the ones applying for the grant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caledonia?
Caledonia's Kent County.
Yeah. They
But
don't
they
have any
finished
part-
all of theirs and even put a
It's
parking
paved, it's
area.
paved to the county line currently. But the, once completed, will connect from Caledonia to Irving. That's quite a step forward in advancing the trail. As these trails become increasingly popular, as you recall, in our countywide recreation survey, that was the most requested item, was a safe place to hike and walk and bike.
Do we intend to have this under the umbrella of the Parks and Rec, the maintenance agreement as the county's portion?
I would assume so.
It would have to be that.
Well,
We
that's,
can't- we
I just
can't-
am asking, because.
Yeah, we can't take the responsibility for the township or the,
No, but I mean, as far as the Berry County's portion of the trail, will that fall under the oversight of
That's
Parks and Rec?
under administration by Parks now, so.
All right,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
So do we have a suggestion, I have down here for the motion, move to support the Thornapple Township request for a letter of support and intent to collaborate. Is that a
It does-
succinct motion?
I think so, and because that is it's to them, DNR Trust Fund Land Acquisition Grant Committee and regarding intent to commit to collaboration. So that is who it's to and what it's regarding. So I would, that would be my suggested motion.
The concern, the only word in there that could make a difference is formal. And I don't know what they mean by formal, and if you feel that covers through that, I don't have a problem with it. But I think we have to define formal if we're gonna do this one. I think we should change it if we can.
Well, if
Formal
we
would
change
mean-
the letter for the lettering of the word and take that phrase out and put in,
Right.
collaborate with, I think that
Yeah, yeah.
we were not approving language in that letter that we didn't
my-
approve.
My understanding is the motion would be, what we made in it would read, if you all, where it says intends to commit to collaborate with Thornapple Township. So the term a formal maintenance and operation agreement would be struck from this
I would
particular.
agree to that.
Ron, can I ask a question? Ron, do you know, do you have a contact at the DNR that could answer this question? I like the amendment that Michael's proposed, but I don't want to cost the township 15 points. Is there somebody you could call real quick to say, would this be a problem?
This request would be assigned a grant coordinator, and that's who you would ask. So the grant coordinator for Berry County,
No, I'm asking about the DNR since they,
the DNR grant coordinator.
Okay.
That is, I do have her name and number here. I don't know her, but I have her contact information.
Ron, do you feel comfortable with the new wording?
I am. It's just restating what's already part of this.
Okay.
I don't think that that's going to be an issue.
okay.
Okay.
So Commissioner Gibson made the motion, and he's okay with the motion as we read it. Are you okay as the seconder?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're both okay with the way that the letter was amended?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to support the Thornapple Township request for a letter of support and intent to collaborate on the on their grant request. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
20 years.
Thank you all very much.
Now, are you going to still keep coming to our meetings?
Yes.
We can't find them all. They still don't have the award. This is just part of the process.
All right.
Next on our agenda is Mr. McManus. He is here with the PA 116 request. So the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Farmland, and Open Space Preservation Program application, more commonly known as PA 116, number 19-3, 19-4, 19-5, 19-6, 19-7, for Randolph and Brenda Spitzley in sections 9, 14, 15, and 16 of Carlton Township.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Gibson, support by Jackson.
Yeah,
Floor is
since it's common ownership and in one township, we thought it'd be a little bit easier to treat this as one motion than 5 separate motions. I hope that's all right. So Spitzley's owned several properties. They're all either zoned ag or rural residential. Planned is either ag or rural residential. They all meet the threshold requirements for farmability. And this went before the Planning Commission and were unanimously approved for recommendation.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. With another PA 116 request, and the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Farmland, and Open Space Preservation Program application, more commonly known as PA 116, number 19-8 for Burdock Hills LLC in Section 21 of Carlton Township.
Support.
Moved by Smelker, support by Geiger.
Yeah, this one, a little more interesting. This is the old mobile home park that was out on Barber Road, or a portion of it. So when you look at the planning and zoning documents, they don't align. It was planned as multifamily and zoned as multifamily residential because of the mobile home park. This will be corrected and amended, and he is actively farming the site currently. So with that information, the Planning Commission did recommend approval for this to go forward.
Any questions?
And you are gonna change the zoning?
Yeah, it'll be all redone, so.
Anything further? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Clerk Palmer. The question before the committee this morning is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners the appointment of members to the Board of Canvassers for a term that starts November 1st, 2019 and ends October 31st, 2023.
Good morning. As we did a couple weeks ago with the Republican Party, I'm here today to ask that you fill the Democrat position on the Board of Canvassers. I've given you each a ballot with 2 names on it.
I can't find my ballot. I'm sorry.
Extra.
All right, thanks. We often don't get little slips of paper. I think John took it.
I'm voting
Thank you.
twice.
Are there any questions for Pam? Seems like we just did this. Do we need to read the names or anything?
The
public record?
names are Amy Zagunas, who I believe is here today, and John Van Nieuwenhuizen, and he is here today also.
All right. Any discussion? Do we just cast our ballots?
You can write your name on your ballot and cast it, and then I'll collect and count them.
Madam Chair?
Sure.
I think we should give the opportunity for these folks to say a couple words if they'd like.
It looks like they may be declining.
No. All right.
All right, and we don't, this is our vote, we don't have to take a vote, and we don't have to pass it on to the Board of Commissioners, or do we?
No,
Okay.
no.
Sir.
All I have is the one from before, which is Doris Hale, Yvonne Markley, and John.
No, that one is old.
I think I had it, but I can't find it now. So,
It's contagious,
can I
Ben.
just cross out
Yes.
one of the, or put,
You can write the name on
okay, so it's Amy?
Amy Zagunas or John Van Nieuwenhuizen,
Okay.
One or the other, not both?
not both.
Okay.
Didn't we do the Republican one and forward it on to the board?
Yeah, we forwarded it onto the board.
Forward it on to the board.
Oh, so do we need to vote to forward this to the board then?
That's how I have, yeah.
Okay.
That's how I have it.
All right, so all those in favor of,
Well, I'm going to collect the
all
ballots.
right, you do that, before we get out of order.
How do you spell Amy's last name?
Zegunis.
Z-E?
Z.
Yep.
It was easier, the Republicans only
Okay.
gave us one name.
One for Amy, one for John, two for John, three for John, four for John, five for John, and six for John.
So it would be to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of John Van Nieuwenhuizen to the Board of Canvassers for a term that starts November 1st, 2019 and ends October 31st, 2023. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you both for applying.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Other boards and commissions we need to
All righty. Public comment. I do have some representatives from the Blue Zones here that are going to jump in public comment, and they are going to take about 10 minutes, right? So now is your opportunity to shine.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
We're going to introduce ourselves and explain why we're here.
We thought that might be helpful. So, good morning, commissioners. My name is Danny Schaffner. I work on the Built Environment team at Blue Zones. And Mark and I here wanted to have just a little bit of time with you all to let you guys know who we are, what sort of the essence of Blue Zones and the built environment are, where we are in the process, what that process looks like, and really just answer any questions for you all today. So that's me.
And I'm Mark Fenton, and also with the Blue Zones Built Environment team. I'm actually an engineer by training, and that will explain. I'll explain in a moment why we even have a built environment team. You are probably already aware of Blue Zones fundamentally, but just as a matter of quick review, it's a national organization that has worked with over 45 to 50 communities nationwide to help create healthier environments. It's based on work done by the founder, a gentleman named Dan Buettner, over a decade ago. He was sent by National Geographic to explore parts of the world where people live to the age of 100 and beyond in healthy and robust lives. And he found several threads that connected those kinds of environments that stood out. People tended to be very socially engaged. They had a sense of purpose. They were still actively involved in their communities. And perhaps most notably, they ate a moderate diet and they were physically active every day. And not necessarily exercisers, just active as part of their lives. They gardened, they walked, they were still engaged with their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The reason this is noteworthy is because many of you would say that sounds a lot like what an American small community lifestyle was 50 or 60 years ago, and in fact that's the case. There's lots of evidence that suggests we know fundamentally that we should eat a good diet and we should be physically active every day, and national guidelines tell us every American should get about 30 minutes of physical activity a day. It would reduce our risk for chronic disease and an early death and lower health care costs. So many health organizations and health coalitions around the country have tried to work toward creating that lifestyle for their residents. Blue Zones, as a national organization, does that. We specifically are part of a built environment team that looks at a sub-piece of that. So you can imagine some of the work is around nutrition, and indeed a team from Blue Zones will be here in weeks to do, next month, to do what we're doing now around the built environment. Your question might be, what do you mean built environment? Let me just say four things. The research tells us environments where you can build a community, let me say it this way, where people are more inclined to get that 30 minutes of physical activity a day without thinking about it, through things like walking children to school, to the corner store, to check on your mom, rather than necessarily consciously exercising. And four things characterize those environments. They tend to have a mix of different kinds of destinations in proximity. There's a good network of facilities connecting them. So think simple things like sidewalks, like bicycle trails, pathways. When you get to a destination, it rewards you rather than punishes you for being on foot. And it's safe and accessible for everybody in the community, people of all ages and abilities, people in a wheelchair, somebody who's visually impaired or blind, pushing a stroller. So those characteristics are the kinds of things we look for when we assess the built environment and help communities create if they are interested in doing so. So that's what Blue Zones is. That's what the research tells us about the built environment. And the last piece of the puzzle is what we're doing here is working with Allison and your county's Blue Zones team to look at where you have strengths, where you have challenges and opportunities. We're asking for your expert input to guide us. We met with folks in Delton yesterday. Commissioner Jackson, you were kind enough to join us down there. We took a walk around the community to look at things they're proud of, their pathway, the fact that they've still got a downtown school, safe crossings, challenges with traffic. Those are the kind of fundamental things we're looking at all over the county. And our hope is to then create a report that summarizes our findings, offers thoughts about possible future directions with the Blue Zones project. In no way is that considered a final document. We present it to you, and the county, all of you collectively, then give us guidance on what you want to actually work on. So that's the process we're in, and we're here today, A, to thank you for your support, B, to ask if you have any questions, and C, to ask if you have any guidance. If there's anything you say to us while you're here for these 3 days, make sure you see this, or be aware of that, or take a look at this. We are happy to hear both your questions and your recommendations and insights.
Any questions? Commissioner Geiger?
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick added plug too that we also have time this afternoon if anybody would like to sit down with us. I think we have a 4:15 and a 4:45 time slot, so just know that that's available too, but please.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for coming here to Berry County. I have two just really general questions. First of all, what's attractive about Berry County to your organization? And two, what do you need us to do as elected officials to make this a successful partnership?
Those are two great questions.
Yeah, I'll let you take that off.
So attractive is, A, the fact that there's interest here, but I would also suggest that the raw material is extraordinary. So as somebody who does this work all over the country and a guy who grew up in a small agricultural community in western New York State, that's very familiar feeling. When I landed here, I grew up in the part of the state where there's a lot of farming, both dairy and apple orchards, that part of New York. I know that the small communities in that part of the country and here now, as I've spent a day already touring, Jim took us on a wonderful tour yesterday and others from your team here. The The raw material is really, really solid. You have beautiful town centers and villages and hamlets where lots of your essential services historically existed. You know, they were very walkable historically, right? They were the kinds of places where even if you lived in a rural environment, you would have driven into town or gotten into town to do your daily business, and you probably would have parked once and hit the bank, the post office, you know, gotten your daily 30 minutes of physical activity without even thinking about it. Now that has changed, right? We know what's happened over the last 40 or 50 years with kind of the modern development style. But the raw material is still here, and there's a lot of interest. In our tour yesterday, we visited with folks in many of the communities. We were up in Middleville, down in Delton, over in Nashville, and in unincorporated parts of the county. And we saw lots of interest for people to see those centers and hamlets revitalized, to see the county as a whole. We saw people working on your great trail system. So I would say big draw is the raw material and the local interest, the fact that people are very concerned about this. I think that's, by the way, a huge opportunity as well.
Can I make a quick?
Please.
I'd say exactly what Mark's saying. The other thing too, I think with that interest and even some of that concern is just an immense pride that we have felt.
Yeah.
That just everywhere we've gone, everyone we've spoken to has just had such investment and such pride around, you know, who their community is, the connections they're seeking, and not just within their own, you know, village or township, but also to one another. And so I would just add that that's a huge piece for us, a huge value add.
And regarding your role, I would suggest your leadership is very, very important in sort of setting a tone that suggests that although we're proud of where we are and happy with where we are, there's more we can do, and that we as a community, it only happens if you guys decide you want it to. It's not like some experts come in and tell you, here's the answer for your community because we've seen it. We can talk about the tools. We can talk about what similar communities around the country, you know, similar levels of urbanity and rurality, similar resources, right? You know, nobody's got the infinite checkbook to just say, oh, we're going to add a sidewalk here and a bike lane there.
What? There's no infinite checkbook?
Yeah, we wish. But I will tell you this, with some pride, we will tell you that we have worked with very rural communities and places that don't have lots of resources and using what we call lighter, quicker, cheaper treatments and low-cost treatments and, you know, the kind of stuff that can be done on the scale of communities we're talking about here. But your leadership is going to be necessary in helping people see this path forward and be willing to try stuff. Because I will suggest we'll put on the table ideas that might be a little different. You know, how you might calm the traffic in a neighborhood, how you might make it easier for kids to walk to this school. And some of that stuff might be unfamiliar or stuff we haven't done here before, right? That can be hard when we try things for the first time. So I would suggest your leadership and even just simple openness to that, the very fact that you've invited us here today, is really, really important.
Any other questions for this group?
A couple things for you. Looking over some of the Blue Zones information, most of the time it's referencing a city or a destination. Is this unique to have a county-wide engagement versus a specific city or destination where you're working with?
You want to speak to that at all?
Sure. So I would say yes and no. Most of the work that's been done has been city-specific, but there's a lot of places where we've done multiple cities or a larger connecting region as well. We've even done communities all across states in some cases, right? So we've done work in Iowa and Hawaii where we've actually looked at, you know, multiple communities across, you know, the state or the region. So I would say it is unique. I actually really like that model because I think it really helps all those communities find that consistent voice, but also each get their own unique lift as well. So I hope that's a
And I would say, though, that, you know, some of the things we've already learned about here, the fact that you guys don't have an interstate going through the county, you know, that you're, if you will, as wet as you are, you got a lot of waterways and things like that. There's some cool things about here that I think are going to make it a great project, have great opportunities associated with that. Some will be challenges. But I think it is, you can be reassured that in particular, I personally and the team, we've worked in very rural environments before. So although one of our county projects right now is Orange County, Florida, which is centered on Orlando, so super urban, right? I would argue this is the other end of the spectrum, but for me, comfortingly. So I feel, you know, there's a real opportunity here because of that. You know, we're not dealing with the machinery of that kind of an urban space, which is extraordinarily cumbersome, if I may be so bold, so.
Well, that was my question, just
Yeah.
when you look at a bulk of the population is Hastings-centric.
Yeah,
But by the same token, the communities have an identity themselves.
absolutely.
Exactly.
In Hastings, you may be able to walk to the bank and to the
Right.
courthouse and do some things, where the post office, the school, and the cafes, I mean, it may be a mile between, so that's a good stretch of exercise in some places, but will there be some unique challenges you almost have to look at the pieces, the hub and spoke of how you put that all together to improve those communities or give some guidance to those communities to make that work? I just didn't know if you've worked in this type of environment before.
Yes.
Yeah, and I definitely have done a lot. I'm doing a lot in upstate New York right now by chance. That's just another area where I'm doing a lot of work. And your hub and spoke is a great analogy where you look at the hub and you say, okay, where's the cluster? What's happening here? But where's the school? Where's the university extension office? But that's a real foundational and important office in a lot of the New York agricultural communities. Where's the Walmart, by the way? That's our regional shopping center or something like that. Those become really important questions, and how you knit that together is sort of both the art and the science of it. And that's why our tour yesterday was so interesting. You get to Delton, but then we talked about, the car museum's a pretty important destination, a few miles south of town, but it's a destination, right? And we want to connect that, what would be the appropriate treatment, and how do we do that? And that means, by the way, it may even come to talking creatively about county roads, right? So we think about just the urban environments. That's one landscape. Yeah, Hastings, right, one landscape. But it's not the universal landscape. We had a great conversation with Commissioner Solms, I think, is that from your road commission? Yeah, and we had a really interesting conversation about sort of how the county road network and where you have shoulders and where you don't and how that network works, how much is gravel versus paved. So our antenna are up to what the creative solutions are that are going to be the right for your environment. Is that helpful in thinking about it? And I think your sort of the way you're envisioning it is the way I think about it as well.
And I'll see you later on this afternoon for
Great.
a little more information, but
Yeah.
is there a 10,000-foot view where you could say, this is the Blue Zones process in the activate phase over the next year, 2 years, 3 years? Is there a big picture that you could let us in on or give us a little
Sure.
guidance on what this looks like going forward?
Yeah. So the simple version of that is we do this assessment phase. We offer a report that sort of summarizes big findings and our recommendations. Again, not etched in concrete, but rather proposed. There's a process where we work with the community on sort of saying, yeah, these are the important things these are the ones that resonate for us. We want you to fine tune that. That doesn't fit at all. We're cool with that, right? You guys guide that process, you guys being collectively the community. And then we essentially put a work plan in place that ranges everything from where do we want to do some practical demonstration projects? Things at very low cost. We were just talking about, sort of a street crossing where maybe a median island is a good crossing treatment so people can get across from the school to the neighborhood over there. How could we do that temporarily at very low cost before we get out a jackhammer and start asking for thousands of dollars for concrete and things like that? So those kinds of demonstration projects. So that's kind of some of the ideas. Some will be natural opportunities. This road's about to be repaved. The city's doing it, the county's doing it, this township's doing it. When that happens, here's the opportunity to repair sidewalks, paint crosswalks, whatever, So there's the opportunistic stuff, and then there's the big, the longer term stuff. That, hey, we've got to update our plan. We've got to update a zoning ordinance or a policy or a planning document. And some of that will absolutely, that policy level stuff would come back to, for example, you and other governing entities around the county, because there might be opportunities for actual ordinance change or policies and procedures change. So that all comes out of a process that's assessment, report, recommendations, iteration, and then action planning for the next 2 years, and then it's concrete doing it. And your local Blue Zones team is really the hub of that with our technical assistance and additional resources that we bring in. So you say, we want a traffic engineer to look at this corridor. We've got access to the best in the country that do rural roads and know how to help you with that. We want somebody to help this township with some of their zoning challenges around this lake or something like that. Boom, we've got people that are really good about water quality and know about how we do, roadway work near lake environments. Boom, we bring those people in. So we're there throughout that process as the kind of the technical assistance provider.
So you think this will be the initial evaluation phase is 6 months or a year or?
No, less than a year. No, more like that 6 month time scale, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, so right now, we are going to report back to Allison and the team within the next month. And then we will then plan for our summit, our convening, right, where we come and present that, have stakeholders at the table, talk through what our recommendations are and get that feedback that Mark was talking about earlier. And then we plan out, we say, okay, so what is success? And then we sort of work out from there. Is that clarifying?
And some real agreement on sort of measures, outcomes.
Exactly.
You know, we want
Metrics,
this to be,
huge piece.
here, you know, measurable outcomes, that their goal is 16 months out, 24 months out, right? So
When would people in the communities actually see a blue dot on a package or a blue zone parking sign or, you know, for the extra walking? When do those things start actually coming into play or fruition for the community?
timescales, what, 18 months?
I think there's some of that that's to be determined. I think that's a good time frame. I also
Different in every
Yeah,
community.
it kind of depends
it
on
is.
what you're, you know, sort of, if you say we want to rewrite a zoning ordinance, that's a different thing than say we want to do identifying healthy restaurants. And we
Right.
want to be,
It might have
right,
variance.
you know, some of that stuff can happen very quickly, whereas, you know, a policy change might be a 1.5 year long process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Good
it's good.
information.
Those are all great questions.
Any other questions, Dan?
Yeah, you must love trails.
we
Sorry,
do.
is that okay? Is that a bad thing?
We do too. But speaking of nutrition,
Yeah.
you've been to Middleville, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. They've had a farmer's market on Fridays, okay? And where you can get nutritious vegetables and fruits and that. They're considering, and they have felt that that crafts are more important and that more people will come to artisan type of things. And they're talking about doing away with more of the vegetables in the farmer's market. And I'm wondering if you have any opinion on that and could share that opinion with my friends in Middleville. So
It's funny because when we were up there, they showed us with no small amount of pride that, you know, the location,
Yeah.
right along the
Nice,
trail, to your
yeah.
point,
It's
right
beautiful.
downtown.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
great spot. I'm going to share just my anecdotal
Please do.
observation, and then
Please do.
so I've worked with communities that have kind of struggled around that because one of the questions around that is how do we keep this thing vibrant year round? For example, out of harvest season, right, when we don't have produce that's in season and so on.
Right.
And so there's a place for things like baked goods, crafts, right, you know, other type farm products, but that are out, you know, perennial, not just annual to the harvest season. And finding that balance is sort of a tricky one, but I would suggest we are strong proponents of making sure that the foundational piece of a farm market is indeed local farm produce, because it's so central to the nutritional piece of the healthy lifestyle formula, if you will,
Yeah.
that you really want that to be available and affordable and preferably locally produced,
Yeah.
right? That's the big win from a nutrition standpoint, while being sensitive to the needs to creating a market that is economically sustainable through the year.
and you help out in those type of things.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The team you'll get is expert in that.
Yeah. So is it a week or 2 weeks, Allison?
So Maggie Adamick is coming in
Okay.
She's our food systems expert, so she'll be doing essentially the same thing that the built environment experts are doing, but around food systems in the county. So looking at ways to increase access, to look at costs and making things affordable and readily.
So will there be an invitation out for people to talk to her, or?
It'll be the same where she'll be engaging with many
With them.
different
Okay,
sectors of
all
the
right.
community, yep, to get a
Okay.
feel about us.
And we all work on the sort of expert end. We all work very closely with one another across those sectors. And I would just add to what Mark is saying too, and Allison on that access piece. One of the reasons why we do think farmers markets are such an incredible place for people to come and get that access is also because it's a great forum for education. Right, so there's a lot of opportunity in a space like that to say, if you don't know how to prepare this, or if you don't know what these options are, you know, we can actually have demonstrations or, you know, those engagement opportunities. So it's just a great crossover, especially, you know, in a place like Middleville with that great, you know, intersect between, you know, active, you know, the location and the trail. So yeah, I would say that that's a huge piece for us too.
But your insights, that's exactly the kind of stuff we need to hear from you, like we
Yes.
did in Dalton yesterday. It's the locals who know the very issues you're raising, so please put that on our radar. But I will say Maggie is a great example of, she does a tremendous amount of work with farmers markets and
she
helping
does.
them be economically sustainable. So she's got that. So she'll bring the expertise, but we need the local insight to get it right.
We'll get to them fast before they make a final decision.
Yeah, good point. All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm from probably the most rural district in the county.
Which is
I have
where?
the biggest landmass. I am the southeast corner. I have one post office in my 4 townships.
Yeah.
And
And you have to milk cows in the morning.
I do. So,
So she
a lot
wins.
of times my townships do not feel an attraction or a connection to the central part of the county. So just a challenge there to make sure that we are not left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add really quickly, Commissioner Jackson, back to your earlier point, I actually think that's one of the true opportunities in having sort of that mix of communities and having that county and, smaller community focus. And I think that's also back to your question earlier, Commissioner, too. I think there's an idea here that we can really use the support and the insight in making those connections and really sort of, raising the water across the board, right? So in good ways, so I think that's just a little bit of our, rosy-colored approach. We really think that's an added value.
We'd ask you to be directive.
Right.
Don't hesitate to say to us, hey, have you talked to? Make sure
Yeah.
you guys see. Did you go visit?
Right.
We want to hear those things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Commissioner
I would echo that. I'm on the southwest corner, and I have no post office within my district, so.
Yeah, but I have
She have
4
the biggest,
townships.
she has the biggest
You have
landmass.
Pony
but,
Express, though, don't you?
Longer walk, doesn't she?
golf cart, maybe. So, but yeah, so I've had people in my district say, is this, how are we gonna be benefited? And is it something that's gonna be shoved down our throat?
Good insight.
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure.
Thank
Thank
A
you.
little
all.
longer than 10 minutes, but is there any other public comment this afternoon? Morning, not afternoon. Feels like afternoon already, though.
The Commission on Aging Board. I do want to say thank you to the Blue Zone. We seniors want to live forever, so. And I think a lot of the things that they have said about commissioners as leaders, that goes for everything, not just Blue Zone. As a member of the Commission on Aging Board, I want to see the very best for the seniors of this county. I take my job very seriously, as do my fellow board members. We have worked hard at trying to find what would be the best way to provide a better and safer facility for our seniors. We want a place that meets our needs now and in the future as we grow. We all know that asking for money is going to be hard, and we all need to work together. Or do we? Even small rumors that get started for whatever reason can easily grow into something very destructive and destroy all the hard work that's been done. When I first heard from someone who got it from someone, who got it from someone, who got it from a county commissioner, that Tammy Pennington has been pushing hard for a new building just so she could get her name on the building, I just shook my head and said, no way. But I heard it again. And then last Thursday, while at the Commission on Aging, one of the people sitting in a group that was talking together said, oh, I was talking to a county commissioner last week, and the commissioner said Tammy Pennington was pushing hard for Now, these people who heard this rumor do not understand that the county commissioners name the buildings, not Tammy, not me, not Rick. They don't know that. What they know is they don't like that. It's not right. So we'll vote no. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to tell their family. This is undermining what we're trying to do. It needs to stop. We all, including the commissioners, need to support what's being done, or we need to just keep quiet. Thank you.
Any other public comment this morning?
Hello, my name is Shana Eastman. I'm the chair of the Berry County Democratic Party. And I would just like to thank this board as well as the clerk for pausing the Board of our canvassers vote last week, or 2 weeks ago, for the Democratic Party and taking it up again today and making that clarification. One other question that I would have is that this is the first meeting that I've been able to attend. I do have a full-time job. I actually work in Lansing. I took today off specifically to come to this meeting. And I've heard talk of wanting people to be more involved, engaged. And just one question in the interest of transparency and that engagement, possibly moving meeting times to not 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, but rather when more people might be able to be engaged. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this morning? Hearing it none, is there any other business to come before the committee? There being no further business and without objection, the committee is now adjourned.